Garment workers in Dhaka demanding better conditions after a factory fire killed more than 1,000 of their colleagues. But 3 years on, have their voices actually been heard? Well, yes and no. Safety is still an issue and hundreds more lives have been lost since then.
We found 9 dead on the spot and 1 died in the hospital. Our fire unit is still working and rescue operations are still going on.
But where it seems things have changed, at least on paper, is when it comes to equal pay for women. A report by the World Economic Forum earlier this month saw Bangladesh jump from number 72 to 47, making it the only South Asian nation in the top 100, and well ahead of its neighbours China and India. So these results mean progress, right? Well, not exactly. Part of the reason things seem to be better in Bangladesh is because the Prime Minister, Speaker of Parliament and several ministers are women, something the World Economic Forum report gives a lot of marks for. There's also a huge reliance on cheap female labour in the garment industry, so the number of women working has increased. But behind the positive headlines, Bangladesh ranks poorly in other areas. The literacy rate for women is 54%, and 2 out of every 5 girls aged between 15 and 19 drop out of school. Domestic and sexual violence is also rampant, with more than 30 women being killed this year alone. Another 11 took their own lives after being raped. The government says women's development is third on the list of its top 10 priorities, and it aims to increase female participation in the economy and politics, prevent child marriage, and bring women in need under social safety net projects, as well as life skill orientated training programs. A long list of improvements it believes it can make by 2025. But given that progress for workers has seemed slow in the past 3 years, it's unlikely that life for women will radically change anytime soon. Vanessa Keneally, The Newsmakers.
Well, to discuss this, I'm joined from Ankara by Bangladesh's ambassador to Turkey, M. Allama Siddiqui, and in Dhaka, women's rights activist Khushi Kabir. She's the executive director of Nijera Kori, an organization working on empowering the rural poor in Bangladesh. It's good to have both of you on the program. Mr. Ambassador, if I can begin with you, reasons to celebrate, given that the World Economic Forum came out with this list and Bangladesh is the top South Asian country in gender equality for the 3rd consecutive year, and it's climbing up, and it's up to 47th now. Reason to celebrate?
First of all, thank you very much for having me at the program. Yes, of course, we are very happy about this development, and we knew that it would be coming because we are confident about the progress and the programs that we have ahead of us. So, of course, we are very happy.
Khushi Kabir, a sign of progress. Is that how you see it?
Yes, I do see there are very, in terms of indicators, in terms of women's, many indicators regarding women's empowerment or advancement. I would say there are very strong positive indicators, and we're very happy that in South Asia and some of the issues particularly, we've done much better than the others, and we hope we continue to do so. But that doesn't mean that everything is absolutely hunky-dory. That doesn't mean everything is absolutely all right. We still have a long, long way to go.
Mr. Ambassador, given that some people might point at other countries in the region and say, well, hold on for a second, you're just the best of a bad bunch, because in some places, for example, Afghanistan, women's rights are being rolled back, especially as the Taliban, for example, takes more and more territory. So you're just the best of a bad bunch. You haven't made real substantial progress.
Well, statistics do not say so, because as you have mentioned in the beginning, we have secured 47th position globally. So you cannot say that it's the best out of the bad bunch. And please remember that in South Asia, we have countries like India and Sri Lanka, which are very pragmatic, practical, progressive societies, having decades and centuries old traditions. So the societies in South Asia are divergent, and very interesting also. I would not agree with you, I'm afraid.
Yeah, Khushi Kabir, let's talk a little bit about women in the workplace, because one of the indicators is that Bangladesh, compared to other countries, has a space for women in the workplace, and it's not just at the low end. There's also a female prime minister, and there are those in positions of power. Is there gender equality in the workplace and in positions of power in Bangladesh?
I wouldn't say there's gender equality in the workplace or in positions of power, but yes, we do have our prime minister as a woman. We've had women as prime ministers from 91 onwards, bar just 2 years when we were under a caretaker government. But since 91, we've always had a woman as a prime minister, which is quite a big deal. We have a speaker now who's a woman. We just, one of the appellate division, the highest courts in the country, had a woman who's just retired, but we have in the high courts a number of women who are high court justices. We have women in every sector, in the administration, in the army, armed forces, in schools and colleges, in universities, teaching. I think there isn't as professionals, I don't think there's any field where you would say that women are not represented. However, having said that, that doesn't mean that there's equality at every level. Equality means that every woman, no matter who she is, where she is, she gets the same treatment, and she looks at women's rights and all the inequalities that exist within society, based especially on gender. The gender inequalities that exist have totally been done away with. It's not been done away with within the home. It's not been done away with within society. And it's not been done away with in the workplace either. Yeah, exceptions do not make the rule.
Okay, so let me ask Mr. Ambassador if you agree with that this is not translated fully into society and in the home. And one of the criticisms with regards to the workplace, I got this from the Dhaka Tribune, where they say that the success of reducing gender equality or inequality is being skewed by the high proportion of women at the very top of the political ladder and the reliance on cheap female labor in the garment industry. So top of the pile, bottom of the pile, but then not much in the middle. And so when they're looking at that, they're saying that it's actually misrepresenting the reality. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would go a little bit back in the history. You see, success of a particular society in a particular arena doesn't come automatically. The society of Bangladesh or Bengal of ancient time actually has always been pluralistic, always been neutral in terms of its bias towards race, caste, and gender and sex. And that's why this is in our background, in our mind, in our psychology. Second thing is, in the Constitution of Bangladesh, it is written very clearly that there would not be any scope for discrimination against the women. The father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, was greatly inspired by his own wife, Lady Fazilatun-Nisa Mujib, who was always standing side by side with the father of the nation in his arduous struggle for our independence. That is in our background. And now, when you talk about the two sides, yes, I agree with Ms. Khushi Kabir that there are many more miles to go for us. We are not at all complacent about our achievements. And the Prime Minister of Bangladesh also has a very clear understanding of the situation. And because of this penchant for us to attain parity in terms of gender, in terms of opportunity for genders, let me also add to Ms. Khushi Kabir's comments that we have now 21% of mid to senior mid-level officials who are women officials in the government. And we have more than 500,000 women working abroad, side by side with 9 million other Bangladeshi men. So that being the situation, actually for us, it's normal that we will attain the goal that we would like to attain. Absolute parity in terms of access and equality for the genders. And let me mention that it has been reflected in many ways since 1990. Since 1990, the women representation at the parliament in 1990 was 10% of the parliament of that time. In 2011, we actually more than doubled the representation of women at the parliament.
Okay.
So that is also something that you may take note of.
So let me then, so let me bring in Khushi Kabir. All those indicators, certainly, sir, and sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Ambassador, because I want to bring in Khushi Kabir. With all those indicators, does that unequivocally suggest to you, Khushi Kabir, that you are moving in the right direction and it has the buy-in from the very top, that there is the political will from the politicians to make sure that this gap is closed?
The gap is closing. There is a political will that in many cases that we meet all our indicators and we get a good image. And I will say that there's a lot of scope for women now in terms of employment. But like the ambassador was talking about female employment, migrant workers, the women workers abroad are treated that much more worse than the male workers abroad. There's a lot of problems which we are going to be dealing with very soon. And it's an area that needs a lot of attention of the government and everybody who's working on this issue. Garment workers who are actually a backbone of earning so much in the textile and garment industry, they get paid much less. But the major issue I would like to state is not just that our numbers or figures are increasing, and those I do not want to in any way say that statistics and figures and indicators are not important. Of course they're important. Today are, from 50 years of lifespan, and for a woman it was 40-something years in 72 after our liberation. We now have 71 years as a lifespan for both women and men. So, we've reached parity. There used to be a 9-year gap before.
Yes.
We've reached parity and we've gone up to 71. But there are two areas which I think are very important that we want to stress on. One is women's security, absolutely, within the home and outside. The insecurity she faces is so high and it's so rampant, and the kind of violence that is being, you see around you is so high, and it seems like none of the cases really get the justice that is due to them.
Okay, so let me take that, certainly. So let me take that for a second, and let me pose that to the ambassador. Mr. Ambassador, some extraordinary statistics have come out over the past few years. We spoke about the positive statistics. There are also the negative statistics. 5,000 women have died from dowry-related violence since 2001. This from the Dhaka Tribune. 183 children married off last year. Now, there's an improvement because it was 184 the year before. It's an improvement of one less person, right? But it's still there. It's still bad. It's a scar across, I guess, the society. And just adding to that, adding to the fact that women are not getting educated, there's 54% female illiteracy, or 54% literacy rate in the country. So when we look at those statistics, particularly the violence against women, to what do you attribute that, sir?
I think the answer is there in the question, because as we have pointed out, and as we were also agreeing with you in general, more opportunities in the social spectrum, particularly in job market, more guarantee of financial independence, less dependence on others of the family will ensure basic rights of the women and would properly deal with the issue of domestic violence, etc. I do not deny what you have told, or Ms. Khushi Kabir has pointed out. All these are more or less the picture of the society. However, please bear in mind that Bangladesh has a very living and dynamic society. In there, not only the government, but also side by side with the government, there are a lot of NGOs, like one led by Ms. Khushi Kabir. They are working relentlessly on this issue of social opinion building. And because of these drives and the campaigns that continues, I believe that time is not far when people would understand the social rights of the women. So I see a very bright future. And for example, if you compare this dowry-related incidents, then you will see clearly there is a drop. And then compared to other South Asian societies, the number of women being tortured or killed or maimed for in the name of honor killing is not there in Bangladesh. If anything happens in that line in Bangladesh, within 24 hours, every media, the print and electronic and the government agencies are after that particular person who has committed that kind of crime. In Bangladesh, it is a taboo to even talk about honor killing, I can assure you. Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Kabir, no honor killings in Bangladesh, or rather there's a taboo with regards to that, and it differs, I guess, when you compare it to countries like Pakistan. Is that a victory? Is that a success?
Well, you see, we are different cultures. Pakistan and Bangladesh have never been a similar culture. We've never had honor killings in Bangladesh, and it was never part of our culture. So I think talking about comparing honor killings in Pakistan or Afghanistan or parts of Punjab or North India is not the same as talking about something that never existed in this country. But what does exist in this country is women not being given the respect and the security that they should be getting from their families or from society itself. We have, our constitution guarantees us equality at all levels. That's absolutely enshrined in our constitution. But what our constitution has also stated, that your inheritance or your personal laws will be guided by your religious laws. And no religion has guaranteed equality in terms of either inheritance or her personal decisions about her lives of her children, who will get it. So there's still a lot of anomalies which we as women's groups are fighting about and talking about. So those are things that we really need to be very clear about, that there are a lot of areas that need to be taken cognizance of. And just earning is not enough. If you're earning but your husband controls all the money, and your husband beats you up because you're not earning enough, or he thinks you are trying to hide some money. There's so many cases of domestic violence that we deal with that come to us, even if they're earning and even if they're independent, even if they're educated, even if they have the highest degree from the university, it doesn't matter. It's where the control and power is. Mm-hmm. I think we need to start changing men's mindsets. I think we need to start changing social mindsets of accepting and acknowledging women as human beings with the same rights, with the same respect, given the same respect and given the same rights, and to be able to move, to get a job and live her own life and make her own decisions. Until that happens, I think the insecurities of forcing, of the dowry debts that you were talking about, what is dowry debts anyway? Dowry debts is because you want the woman to keep on bringing in money because she is valueless. So unless a woman is valued, the dowry will never stop. Mm-hmm. So we think it's very important that we start talking about changing mindsets and changing people's attitudes towards women, the whole society and families. We start with ourselves.
Okay.
We start within our family. Everywhere.
Okay, well, according to the best available evidence from the World Economic Forum, Bangladesh seems to be moving in the right direction when it comes to gender equality. And I guess that's good news for Bangladeshis. That's the point at which I'll leave this discussion because I have to move on. I thank you both for joining us, Ambassador M. Allama Siddiqui and Khushi Kabir. Thanks for joining us on the Newsmakers.